Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
Hey everyone, B1B Flyer here. In this video, I'm going to show you a few tricks to help you paint the tips of exposed missiles and other similar details like you see in all the color artwork, like this render from the Alpha Strike Pride Timberwolf. This method will work for whatever color you decide, so if you want to use red like the art here that's found in the Battletech Legends book, then just swap the colors to suit. Here's the paints and brushes that I used: Viejo Off-White, Pro Acryl Pyrrole Red, Army Painter Dark Tone, and some Airbrush Flow Improver. You can also use Glaze Medium to help slow the drying time. Your preferred white, red, and black washes will easily substitute for any of these. The brush I use is a Monument Hobbies 00 Fine Detail Kolinsky with a good condition tip. You can also use a toothpick to paint the small red sensor tips later instead of a brush if that's easier for you. I'm starting out with the white thinned with some Flow Improver and loading a small amount of paint on my brush. I want to try to focus on painting the missile tips with a predominantly downward stroke. I suggest avoiding trying to paint them using a circular motion because that is much more difficult to control and a complex movement of the brush that lends itself to paint getting in areas that you're trying to avoid. You'll see me rotate the model later to keep the brush strokes consistent, but still cover the round cone surfaces evenly. I usually wait to paint these details on a nearly finished model, along with the canopies and lasers. You can see I'm using this Falcon Guard's Pride Timberwolf here that has its own tutorial and will be linked at the end of the video. The model also has a fresh coat of gloss varnish applied, which makes cleanup easier, and you can see me use that to my advantage in the Checkers tutorial on the same model as well. If you're concerned about being able to paint things this small, here's a few pointers I can offer while you watch me make my way through the rest of these missiles. You really need a brush that holds a fine point. It doesn't have to be the most expensive or smallest bristle brush out there, but you'll want to get something with a natural Kolinsky sable like what I've used here. If you have issues seeing the details that you're painting outside of corrective lenses and such, more light is always the first answer. A good desk light or multiple lights will help you see what you're trying to do. Having a painting handle or something to stabilize your miniature while you rest your hands is also very useful. The more solid surfaces you have to allow you to only have to slightly move your brush and miniature will help aid in controlling the paint. Finally, if you consume caffeinated beverages, I'd recommend skipping or cutting back prior to painting small details like this. When it comes to small movements and fine control, that can help reduce the normally unnoticeable shakes that's common to have after consumption of caffeine. I'll let the video continue to run so you can see the entire process. Now I'll be moving on to the optional detail of painting the red tip on these already tiny missiles. Again, I've added a bit of Flow Improver to my red to slow the drying time so it doesn't chunk up on my brush while I'm painting. Now I'm using a very light touch and just placing a hint of the red at the very top of each missile cone. Rotating the miniature is more about getting a good angle to not get red on the edge of the launcher than it is about trying to get coverage all the way around. You could also use that toothpick to dot the tips if that works better for you. It's such a small area that the red dot on the tip will look good regardless of the angle. I'm also putting a small white stripe along the outer edge of the launcher to align with the reference artwork I'm using, since it's already using the same colors. Painting the sensor cone is just a larger scale version of what I did with the missile tips. I just use the white I already have on the palette and apply it to the cone of the sensor. Once I've got good coverage that I'm happy with, I take a moment or two and rinse my brush out and let it dry, and then come back with the red and apply a small accent stripe to the line between the green and the white. I'll let the video continue so you can watch the process all the way to the end. Finally, I'll show you how to ruin your clean paint job by putting some wash all over those cleanly painted missiles. Joking aside, the wash is there to tone down the white and set in the recessed ring around each missile, while also adding a bit of a black shadow to the edges of the launcher and making the front face of it look like a bit scorched or smoke trails have impacted the color. This is completely optional, but I like how the resulting black sets off the light colors. I thinned my Army Painter dark tone with some water so that it doesn't cover as heavily, as it's a bit thicker than the other washes that you may be familiar with. If you have something like Nuln Oil or a thinner version of a black wash, that's what I'd suggest you use here. Work the wash into all the corners and cover each missile, and then wick away any excess so that it just stays in the recesses and doesn't pool up and block that lower row of missiles while the miniature is propped upright. Let that dry and you're all set with some cool details on your miniature. That's all for me now. Your turn, Tex.
We certainly hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe and leave your questions or comments below. Follow us on Facebook at Battletech Camo Specs Online. Check out our website at camospecs.com. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Heat critical, shutdown imminent. Time for Pop-Tarts.